Hello and welcome to Playback. So as you may already know, we've got 145 short films made by young filmmakers. Are there any of them in the room here? Yeah. Awesome. So they're showing in our theatre, and some of the panel have been to look and loved it. Right? So they're showing in our theatre until tomorrow, so please tell everyone you know to come on down and have a look. And then the exhibition goes on tour for the next year, so we'll be in Peckham platform in a couple of weeks, and then we're going to Leeds, Worcester, Leicester, all over the country. So that's that, and at the same time we have all these events going on here today and tomorrow, so hope you get down to a few more. When I was told to put on this festival, I was asking you guys what you wanted to know more about, and one thing that came back was film festivals. How, as a filmmaker, do I navigate film festivals? And I'm lucky enough to have worked and visited so many film festivals over the last 10 years, and I think they really are super important to the industry, beating heart of the industry, and it's where collaborations happen, where they start, and where you can see such diverse new work. So they're super important, and so happy to have a panel of great film festival directors plus a filmmaker who has lots of experience with festivals here today. So I'm going to hand over to them, and they'll be taking your questions as well. Okay, thank you.
This isn't doing, oh, it's doing something. Okay. So I'm Jemma Desai. I work, I'm a festival programmer at the BFI London Film Festival, and I also work at the British Council, where I look after our activity with shorts and also global exhibition. This session is about, as Corinne said, about why film festivals are important to our film culture and how to make the most of attending the festival if you were to get accepted into one, but also the process of trying to get accepted into one. So we've got a great panel here, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves in just one second. But I just wanted to, just at the top of the session, kind of draw attention to some resources that you might want to check out. Because a lot of the times with these sessions, like, similar questions come up, and particularly on the British Council website, there are some really important resources that if you don't know about, you should probably familiarise yourselves with. We have on our website, we have a festivals directory which kind of lists loads of international film festivals, loads of UK festivals. I wouldn't say that it includes every single one in the world, but it's getting close to that. It's a user-generated database, so anything from the tiniest film festival, in a really remote location international, to the biggest sort of short film festivals and big markets as well. So you should definitely check that out. We also run a short film travel grant at the British Council, which means that we have a list of about 34 festivals that we support travel to. So if you get into a short film festival that's on our list, you can apply to us, and we'll give you a small grant to attend the festival, because we're very much about supporting filmmakers to make international collaborations. That key festivals list is also a really good starting point in any search that you're doing for submissions, if you're thinking about submitting internationally. So there's thousands of festivals, and that's quite a good starting point for thinking about the bigger ones that might be suitable for yourself. Anything about online submissions and stuff, of course these people are here, and the submissions process, but I mean, it's always really important, I think, to just do your own research as well. And I can't sort of emphasize that enough, that, we've got this panel here, so think about stuff that might not be already available on the website if you want to ask some questions at the end. And I think that it's also really, really, really important to remember that the kind of work varies from festival to festivals, and there are different types of films that are championed by programmers for a variety of reasons, from taste to subject matter, and I think that's quite an interesting thing to unpick with this very diverse range of programmers here. So I'm going to get you to introduce yourself. Cherie, would you like to start and introduce yourself and your festival?
Is this on?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So I'm Cherie Federico. I'm the director of the Aesthetica Short Film Festival. So Aesthetica Short Film Festival is connected with Aesthetica magazine, which you'd find on your seats there. The festival takes place in the city of York. It's held over 18 venues. We screen about 350 films. Films range in a variety of genres, from more traditional, like comedy, drama, thriller, straight through to artist film, dance, fashion, experimental. We even have an advertising category. So the festival runs for 5 days. There's master classes that you can attend from industry experts on everything from editing to producing to cinematography to funding, commissioning. And it's got a great atmosphere, lots of networking, and because York's a pedestrianised city, it's a real great atmosphere because you can see everyone who's attending the festival. Last year there were 21,000 people that attended, so it's really busy and fun. It's great for accessing people to build your contacts list, and the festival has BAFTA recognition, so basically if you screen with us you will be eligible to apply for a BAFTA. And yeah, there were 40 countries represented last year, but a great spot for British filmmakers as well. So that's me.
I'm Alex Taylor, so I'm a filmmaker, writer, director, and it was great seeing your short films in the exhibition because they're experimental, and it's really good to see people trying to do something different, trying to break out of the same old formulas. And I did my first short film was in 2008, and it was also sort of experimental in nature, and I got to South by Southwest Festival and won an award there, and that really opened doors to towards making a feature film. So I made my first feature last year called Spaceship, which is out in cinemas this May. And so I think it's sort of hopefully you ask any questions you want, but I think short films, and you're all young and you've got all these fresh new ideas. They can really, we can really cultivate your voice and lead into a career, and I think that's what I'll try and give you today. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Anna Bogustkaya, and I'm the director of Underwire Festival. Underwire is now gearing up for its 8th year, and recently we became also BAFTA recognized, so all the short films that screen with us are also eligible for the BAFTA. Underwire really started as a DIY screening event to celebrate women behind the camera, and we're sort of unique in the UK landscape of festivals because we're the only festival that screens and recognizes women working across the different filmmaking crafts. So our program is structured for short films across 12 competitive categories, ranging from sound design to directing to screenwriting to on-screen representation, and only women are eligible in all those categories. So we screen short films directed by men as well, but we aim to spotlight and support women working across the crafts where they're represented across the breadth of filmmaking. Recently, last year when we became BAFTA recognized, we became a 5-day festival with a range of short film screenings, also special events and more curated programs, and we're also now moving into screening first and second time features directed by British female filmmakers as well. So our core mission is to recognize women working in film and grow with them. And a lot of the filmmakers that we have screened with their short film work are now moving on and to creating their first or second features. So we're really on that journey with them as well as a festival, and continuing to support their work and to spotlight it and also to evolve and grow as an event.
Hiya, my name's Peter Taylor. I'm the director of Berwick Film and Media Arts Festival, which is up in Berwick upon Tweed, right on the border with Scotland. And I've been working at the festival for 2 years. It's now in its 13th year, which hopefully will be lucky one. And the interesting thing about Berwick is that we concentrate on showing what I would describe as new cinema. It can be old. It can be silent film. It's also artist moving image, but I guess it's a film that kind of really has it's maybe some kind of new wave in a way. Has a really special spark, and we in terms of our programming, we try to break down the hierarchies that there usually are between short film, mid-length film, feature film, also older film, and brand new film. And the also very exciting thing about the festival is that we have 12 exhibitions all around Berwick, and there's a really great integration between the artist work that we show there and the programs in the cinema. And we have seminars every morning, and just due to it being such a small size, we only have there's about 8,000 visitors, but much less in the cinema, and you have really close contact with the different filmmakers and artists there, so it's well worth a trip. And before that, I worked at the International Film Festival in Rotterdam, which is something completely different. It has around 300,000 visitors, but is, I guess, one of the most well-known festivals that specialises in artist film and short film. So thanks.
So just picking up on your bio, really, Peter, just, that there's a real cross-section of different festivals that you could apply to, and you could attend, even if you weren't applying. To all of you, what advice would you give to everyone in the room about, deciding how you start applying and who you should apply to? What would be your top tips for that kind of overwhelming task of looking through all these different festivals and why they might be useful to a different filmmaker? How do you make that decision?
I guess I would really look for festivals that are showing work that you're really interested in. I think that's probably the best guidance, and especially when so many film festivals have entry fees. I think it's especially relevant, I guess, to check before you're applying, because especially when I worked in Rotterdam, we would have around 4,000 or 5,000 short films submitted, and there's only a very tiny percentage of them we would really would have been really relevant for the programming that we were doing. So just really follow your senses and your interests, and it's also really well worth getting involved in film festivals that you're really interested in. There's so many, of course, in London, and I started in Rotterdam just in the video library. We did have videos where press would have come and just sort of giving the videos that people wanted to see. So as well as your own filmmaking, festivals can be really brilliant just to get involved with, to meet more filmmakers and people like yourselves.
Sorry. Alex, would you like to pick up with some of your own experience of, the shorts that how you went about it practically with the kind of shorts that you had and experiences at festivals as well?
Sure. So, in my experience, what's really important is your relationship with the individuals who program the festivals, which is, of course, difficult to have a relationship before you've entered your film. But I think it's important to realise that behind every festival there are individuals with individual tastes, and there will be people out there who love your film, and there will be people out there who don't like your film. And if you get people who don't like your film at a festival, you won't get in, because they've got to be passionate. They're programmers. They've got to be passionate about the films that they show. But don't be disheartened by that. Send it in. Don't exclude film festivals that you don't think are right for you. Just try them out, because you'll find people out there who will support you as a filmmaker through several years of your life and can be integral. So that happened for me, for example. Phil Ilson, who programs the London Short Film Festival, who all of you should be sending a film into, by the way, because Phil has a very eclectic tastes, and that's, I think, really valuable. So I got an award from him, actually, the Best of the Boroughs it's called. It's sort of a Film London award for short film. And then after that, I think he's programmed all of my films in London Short Film Festival and London Film Festival. Every film I've made has been in London Film Festival because of him. If there's only 2 short film programmers there, right? Him and Simon?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so there's Simon Young and Phil Ilson. If Phil wasn't there, I probably wouldn't be in London Film Festival, because I don't think I'd fit Simon's particular tastes. So sometimes it's pot luck. So don't give up. Find those people out there who like your style and will support you.
I can just pick up on that. I think that's very, very good advice, and also especially because if your particular film doesn't fit the sensibilities of one programmer, they will pass it on to another one, saying, "Oh, you might like this, or this might not fit into my festival, but I think it really gels with yours or with this category." Or I know you mentioned you were working in a program about whatever, and this might fit in. So everybody does talk to each other all the time. So if it doesn't fit into one particular festival because of whatever reason, either practical one, even things like, oh, you just finished it too late to get into this year's program, it doesn't mean that programmers, we do watch everything that people send to us, even if it's even if it doesn't fit into this year's, and we do pass things on to each other as well. So, and because we talk with each other all the time and we see each other at these panel events, at parties at the different festivals, you do start talking and names pop up. And if you are kind-hearted as well enough to just think of programmers as well as people and not as festivals that need to show your film, that's a really good way to develop those relationships. And as Alex, you mentioned, just Phil kind of continuing to program your film throughout all the festivals that he works on, that kind of puts you in touch with different people as well, and then it continues. So he's already going to be, whatever programmer, once you've programmed a certain filmmaker a couple of times, so once they've caught your eye, you want to continue to support them and develop that relationship and grow with them as well, because then it's kind of a source of pride as well to discover a short film and discover a filmmaker, continue to see what they're doing.
And just to add to that, it can also lead on well to feature films, because I was in South by Southwest with my first short film and won an award there. I know the head programmer, so when 3 or 4, 5 years later I'd finished a feature, I could email her and say, I've made a feature, please, look out for it when we submit it. And so Spaceship, we had our world premiere at South by, because she watched it and loved it. We didn't get into a lot of other film festivals, but South by Southwest is clearly somewhere where my films fit in, if not elsewhere. So, it's finding those avenues that will do you well for the rest of your life, and career.
I mean, just to pick up on what everybody said here, I think actually there's some really good advice there in terms of making sure that you do some research and attend the festivals that you think. I mean, I believe that there's a festival for every film, so it's important to check out as thoroughly as possible. And if you can make your way there, see how things operate. See if you like the way that it's screened, you like the venues, you like the networking opportunities, and that actually it's something that can enhance and help you develop your career professionally. And I think as well, something that Anna said, and Alex as well, it's so exciting for us that when we see a filmmaker come through and you get a film and you're like, you speak to your office and you go, you have to watch this. You have to watch it, and you get very, very, very excited about it, and you think, I can't wait to present this at our festival. And then you screen that film, and there might be a panel or something, and then you get to meet the filmmaker. And then as time passes, the filmmaker makes new work, and you follow the trajectory of that filmmaker. I mean, just what popped to mind, there's a company called 104 Films, or is it 103? Sorry. Can't remember. Apologies. They made a film called Notes on Blindness. Some of you may have come across it. And I saw that film as a 3.5-minute short. Maybe it was 2012, 2013. It was a long time ago. Next thing I knew that the filmmakers had won at Sundance, and then I saw it on the New York Times website, and I kept seeing this little short, it's beautiful, amazing documentary about a man going blind in the early 1980s and how he's coping with that. Fantastic cinematography. It's now been made into a feature, and so I've followed, much like your experiences really with shorts, but I've followed these filmmakers, for the past 5 or 6 years, and it's kind of like, we publish the magazine as well, and we will be supporting and pushing out as much information as we can, because we're interested in seeing a success and kind of helping filmmakers to push forward and to develop their careers. So I think that's one of the most important things that you can get from festivals. So it is about these personal relationships.
So you've all talked about kind of the experience of, being there, like actually attending the festival, having the experience of submitting, and, Alex, you were talking about, what you've learned from that process. If you're at the beginning of that journey, are there any sort of resources that you would recommend that are available there to help you make those decisions? So to help you kind of have a clear eye on the type of work that you have, so that you'd know where to submit, perhaps, and also there's something about networking and what you've said as well, Alex, about using the festival to your advantage for your future career without being a really sort of cynical networker. The sort of balance of all of that. Where would you begin with that if you could go back to that bit? Is that what was useful to you right at the beginning of that journey?
I think Berlin Talent Campus was really super useful. Have you guys all heard of that? No, you should all go and look up the Berlin Talent Campus, because they it runs alongside the Berlinale, the Berlin Film Festival, and it's for young, up-and-coming, exciting new filmmakers from all over the world, and it's a week long. It's like a training course for film festivals, for networking, and to not be cynical, to be open-minded, and they put you through masterclasses, speed dating sessions, and you get very quickly, it's like a training course for making most of film festivals. And I was lucky enough to get on that myself, and I'm still friends with 2 of the people I was there with 7 years ago have just been in Sundance with their feature films. The Jack Tarling, producer of God's Own Country, and Kyoko Miyake, who's done 2 lovely documentaries, one about her My Atomic Aunts, and this new one is about Japanese idols. So anyway, you make lifelong friends, and I think this is a good way to approach film festivals. In terms of resources, I'm not sure. I think it's about yourself as a resource, as an honest, friendly, open-minded person, and that person next to you in a queue for a coffee could be your future producer, or they could be an amazing cinematographer who hasn't yet done the first feature or whatever. So the industry is all about people and personal relationships, so I think that's the key to making the most out of festivals.
And as programmers, do you have any advice on kind of having that clear eye about the kind of work that you have? So obviously for you, Anna, there's a very clear, in some ways a very clear sort of perspective that your festival has, but there's a broad church of the type of work that you would program. But Peter, for yourself, it's kind of the opposite. Like, anyone could apply, but there's a real aesthetic to the work that you're showing. As a filmmaker, how easy is it to understand that? From what would you recommend that people do? Who should you show it to? Should you be showing it to programmers before you're submitting, etc.?
I think you can always get in direct contact with programmers. Most of the time their email addresses on their website, and I'm actually amazed how little people actually contact me. I only get maybe one every 2 weeks or something, and you would think that we'd be bombarded, but we're not. And I think it's always good to if there's a film festival that you're really interested in, ask for a fee waiver as well, and because actually then we'll probably look at your work originally. But it is really worth just having contact with people, and taking a little bit of time to look at the programs, and there's great reviews of film festivals in Sight and Sound. I really love the magazine CinemaScope, a Canadian one. Really follow your nose, and talk to other friends that you have, and
I think definitely just to pick it up also on that is not to assume certain things about festivals, not to assume that you cannot get in touch with people. Like you say, just drop. It's very easy to find somebody's email online, ridiculously so. So just dropping them a line saying a few lines about the film, going, hey, I've done this. Do you think this is something that you might be interested in? Is it worth submitting? Can you give me a fee waiver? Is always a cheeky ask. Maybe not always you can do that, but it's always worth an ask. But also just not assuming. And actually, the reason I said that Underwire shows films directed by men as well is because a lot of people just assume that because Underwire is there to spotlight and support female talent, we only show things directed by women and only a certain type of film, which is completely untrue. We have a very diverse type of short film and feature film that we show. Our mission is very clear, but that does not affect the program creatively and how we see films. We look at the technical side, but for instance, one of the constant emails I get is, do you accept short films directed by guys? Yes, we do, but we just have a kind of a clear set of rules about how it needs to fit into one of the competitive categories that we have at the festival. But that would be the thing. Don't understand what the festival is, just the very basics of it. If you know that this is a festival showing only comedies, don't send a very dark drama to it. If you know that this is a festival that is interested in supporting female talent, think, oh, is my production designer was a woman, my DOP was a woman, maybe this is one festival that I can get in and also support her work and help her develop and grow her career and her network as well. So think about it and kind of do the bare, because there's so many festivals and it can be so overwhelming when you're looking at that vast void and the Excel spreadsheet that you need to build in order to get all of the dates and submission deadlines for all the festivals that you dream of getting into, including the big ones and the smaller ones. Think about which ones you can access, which ones you can quickly Google who the programmer is, who the short film programmer is. Alex, you mentioned before that your relationship with Phil was instrumental to getting into BFI London Film Festival and all that. And of course, you know he is the person who does the short films there. You don't, if it's a big festival like Sundance or LFF, why would you email the director of it? Find the person who programs the shorts and get in touch with them, because you know that that's actually a smarter way in, because that person is in charge of that specific element of a big machine. Yeah.
Sorry, did you want to add, Cherie?
Well, I mean, I was just going to say, I think it never hurts to actually call up and ask a question as well. One of the common questions that we get is, I don't know which genre my film is, because films are actually so interdisciplinary now that they could be, you could have something that could be considered experimental. You could have something that could be comedy, experimental comedy, or, I have things that are sometimes documentary, or maybe they're fashion, or maybe they're both. And so there's sometimes people can't decide which category, to submit under. And, sometimes it just takes a quick call to the office just to have a conversation with someone on our team, and we can advise you. But I will say this, sometimes, you know, if film maybe is, say, submitted as a documentary, or say a fashion, but it's more of a documentary or something along that lines, that, you know, we do have discussions amongst ourselves, and that film can be moved over. You know, we would contact the filmmaker in that case to see if they were happy to be moved to a different genre. But, you know, I think, I guess the point is maybe the point we're all making here is communication is really essential. And although it may seem daunting to contact, you know, a festival, particularly if it's something that maybe you're really keen to get involved with, you might be nervous. I mean, I have, you know, a lot of, you know, philosophy in life, like, you know, what's the worst could happen? I mean, just no, you know. So I kind of feel like, you know, you should be inspired to just pick up the phone or send an email to get the information that you need to make sure that your submission is going to the right people, and you know, you're achieving what you want from it.
Okay, so you have all painted a very lovely picture of really approachable programmers who are your champions, and they are just thirsty for new work and want to get your work into the right place, which I think is absolutely true. But also there's another side of the work, which is the volume of work that you're all receiving, the expectations often that, you know, you have from your wider team of programmers, etc. Are there things that people should not be doing? You know, what, as a programmer, what puts you off? You know, because as you've said, these are personal relationships that you're cultivating for the future. And are there any tips about the parameters of that communication?
I have one. You know, so I think last year something, maybe 12% of the films submitted made it through to be programmed with the festival. So, you know, it does go through a very rigorous system to get programmed at Aesthetica. The thing is, if you don't get in, you know what I think is a really useful thing to do is to email in and to ask for feedback, because we take each programmer takes really detailed notes, and actually we're more than happy to give you that information to really help you. What you shouldn't do is get really angry, because you know, and I mean, trust me, more than anybody else in this room, or just equally as everyone else in this room, rather, I understand that your film is your work. It's very personal. You know, it's like blood, sweat, tears, heart, soul, all of it has been put in to make that possible, to make it exist, and you know, you're personally attached to it. And so when you do get a rejection, you know, it does hurt your feelings, you know, and that's okay too. But I think the best thing to do is to actually handle that like very diplomatically and kind of find out why, because maybe it could be a case that you were long listed and maybe you almost made it in, and then therefore, you know, actually, you know, okay, maybe I lost out because other films that were submitted this year, I'm going to try again here. Or maybe it's a tip about, you know, the type of film with the type of festival. Maybe it's just not a match or something, you know. So it's worthwhile getting the feedback. But, you know, one of the things that you shouldn't do is, I have had people that have become very irate and it doesn't go down well, because actually what ends up happening is you remember those people, but for the wrong reason, you know, and you think, ooh, that I remember that person, and they kind of like, you know, flew off the handle because they didn't get their work accepted. I mean, it doesn't happen very often. Most people handle it really well and just want the feedback, but it has happened. And I think that's maybe a top tip, is kind of really, you know, take it on the chin and then find out why. So for your next project, you know, you can use those tips to make the next project. It's my top tip.
I definitely second that. It doesn't happen often, but it has happened that after the selection process is kind of public and we've sent everybody their kind of acceptance and rejection emails that we do, some people get quite angry and feel the need to send emails going, but this, what do you mean it's not in? I've paid the submission fee, how come it's not in? And the submission fee is, we always try to keep all of our events and the festival itself very accessible, so both our submission fee and our ticket prices are always around a tenner or less. Our submission fees are incredibly low, so that barely covers the admin and the time cost of having a team of people watching and thinking and deciding and programming the short films of the festival. So those kind of angry emails that you can sometimes get they play a role, but the wrong one. You end up remembering people for the wrong reasons, as Cherie said, and also kind of get slightly offended in a way, because you think everybody's putting in so much work and effort and really thinking about each film individually and going through each one of them meticulously through the system that you develop as a festival, that then it becomes it's quite hurtful sometimes. So I think that would definitely be asking for feedback is a really good tip, but also accept that as the festival grows nearer, that might be not the best time to ask for feedback. I would say after the festival is done, whatever time it is of the year, that would be a good time to email and ask, I really wanted to get in, can you let me know what you thought of my film, or why did you think it did not fit in this year? Because that also happens quite a bit, especially if you program thematically, where sometimes the programs kind of emerge from the films that are submitted, and there's films that you really love and you want to fit them in, but there is just not the space, or there isn't the right place for it that year, but you remember them. And if you email asking, was there a particular reason why I didn't get in this year, that might be a prompter for the programmer of the festival to say, I really wanted to get it in, but it just didn't fit this year. Can we consider it for this year? And that could be the beginning of a relationship with the festival as well.
One thing that I used to say to people after videos, there were DVDs, of course, and I used to encourage people not to send in DVDs in fancy cases, but just to handwrite on the DVD itself, because the covers always give too much away. But of course, the brilliant thing is now that most films are submitted digitally or by Vimeo, and they actually come through in a really clean way, which so you get your first impression in viewing, and that's really, really helpful. One thing that I had never ever thought of was an Austrian filmmaker that I knew was really angry because it's sent a film to Rotterdam, and I think in their tracking they hadn't seen any kind of Dutch views of their film, and that's a rare occurrence, but a lot of programmers that work at the larger festivals actually live. You don't usually live in the place where the festival is, so don't worry about that kind of thing. I can assure you that your film is watched.
So, and Alex, picking up on the feedback thing, is there stuff that you have learned in terms of taking feedback, like in the process of submitting to festivals, and also in the process of, were there things that went into the work that you did for your feature as a result of stuff that you'd learned from, sharing it with different audiences, sharing your work with different audiences with your shorts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a long process. I think as a writer director, you're constantly worrying about what the audience is going to think, but also trying to stay true to what you think and what you enjoy. And it's this is a massive topic really to deal with. But in terms of festivals, I mean, I made one short film that made a little bit of fun at religion, and that sometimes didn't go down well. So I don't do anything about religion anymore, even though I was confirmed and baptized. But I just would rather stay away from topics that. But so Spaceship has some alternative culture, shall we say? As so there's a girl with a goth slave boy. So people who are really straight and a bit offended by open sexuality get really annoyed with that. So, but what can you do? So you can't. So in terms of taking feedback from festivals, some also the way you shoot the film is going to say some festivals like Cannes, for example, they do like that sort of very high-end auteur style. So if your film's more sort of maybe messy and a bit more chaotic and a bit more textured, you're going to find it hard to get in. And if you want, so where am I going with this? In terms of feedback, you have to. It's very difficult. We have to learn what is feedback which is valuable to feed into your voice. So if they don't like your film, or they haven't programmed your film, and they say, look, I could see, some of it was interesting, but your point wasn't clearly made, or your story wasn't clear enough for us to understand. You have to listen to those comments and feed that back into your next work, and then you have to filter out those times when you don't get selected because it's just not their taste, or they're programming by theme, so your film didn't fit into a general theme that they wanted to show in their program. So you have to do a bit of detective work, and you have to think deep inside your instinct. You've got to be tough with yourself. I didn't do well enough in that aspect of that film. And I've been through this with my feature film. There are definitely aspects of it which I can see now. I didn't succeed in doing that well, but I did have something there that worked, and now how can I retain that which I loved about it and try to get rid of those things which maybe didn't work so well. It's a tough process, but it's worth it.
I just want to add something to that. I think what you've, although I'm a programmer, I don't actually make films, but one of the things that I always speak to filmmakers about is taking a film that you really admire, a film that's kind of maybe inspired you, and actually watching it with a really critical eye. So examining what is it about that film that makes it work. This is just kind of taking the feedback thing to another direction, but I think although I do agree with what you said about having a filter, because actually sometimes there's really great work that's just maybe not right for our festival. So yeah, I think that's a really, really key point. But anyway, what I was saying is I do think it's really a really interesting kind of critical exercise is to find a film that you like. And if you're working in shorts right now, which you are, I'd find a short that you like and really examine it and say to yourself, well, what is it, maybe a film that won some awards, and look at it, and if it's a film that's of your style and maybe the genre of filmmaking that you are making, and think, okay, what is it? What are the aspects of this film that are making it a success? Why did this film win awards? And it's a really critical exercise. So when you kind of can pick things apart and you can look at it in that way, when it comes to your own work, then maybe you can have that critical distance from it, which can be tricky. But maybe you can have that critical distance from it when you're kind of at the final production stages before you're getting it ready for festival submission. So that might be really helpful in terms of I guess it's evaluation really that I'm talking about.
There's another thing that I just remembered as you mentioned, Cherie, is we mentioned kind of getting in touch with the festivals and with the programmers or the appropriate people at the big festivals like Berlin, LFF, Sundance, and all of those. But there's another thing as well, is that looking at, especially with short films, because it can become so daunting, and there are so many short film festivals in particular all around the world, get in touch maybe with a local filmmaker who you can see has been around a lot of festivals and has had a lot of success, and just maybe their film is similar. If you've done a horror short, maybe you want to get in touch with someone like Pranabelli Bond. Her last short film got in over 40 festivals, including Aesthetica, I think. So get in touch with those people who, again, are also incredibly accessible, maybe even more, because filmmakers are trying to build a public profile, and they will have a website with all their work. They will be on Twitter and Instagram and all the social networks. Get in touch with them and say, oh, do you think there's any good festivals you would recommend? Which one you would start with? Can you put me in touch with any programmers? Simple questions like that. And also then you develop a different kind of relationship with somebody who has already been in that exact same position and has maneuvered it in a successful way.
And just picking up, Peter, on something that you were saying, so talking about how we've moved from physical things to submitting digitally, and we've all talked about. Do you think the fact that we get like a simple list of links now, rather than lots of DVDs or lots of videos with loads of paraphernalia attached to it, do you think that means that it's really just the work that you're looking at, or are there still things that people can do to stand out, notwithstanding some of the things that you've already said about contact and, you know, just being around and knowing who you're submitting to? Have we come to a stage where actually it really is just the work that we're assessing, or is there something else that people could be thinking about?
I mean, I think it's impossible to ever be totally objective, but I do think that if your work is really strong and the person viewing it is interested in it, they will definitely see that. And the only time that where I've known that hasn't been the case is sometimes at the very end of the selection process. I remember watching a film by the artist Ed Atkins, which is quite 40 minutes long, really abstract and difficult, and being really thrilled by it, and then passing it along to colleagues, and they really hated it. But their brains at that stage, I think, were just so full that they couldn't really cope with it. And one of them afterwards programmed it at another festival and won a prize. And he's of course a very successful artist. But yeah, I think that's the thing. I just really encourage you to send your films in and don't worry too much about all the other stuff around it, because your films really speak for themselves. And although all the supporting things are interesting, I mean, we give the opportunity to give artist statements and you know, provide bios and things, but it is really your work that speaks most strongly for itself. So.
I'm so glad that DVDs are gone. Yeah. I absolutely hated them. There would be like mail bags, you know, those big giant mail sacks of DVDs, and it's unreal. I mean,
very heavy.
just carting around all these DVDs, it was absolutely ridiculous. So the list of links actually, I think, is really, really good. And as a program, you get sent, you know, it's in an Excel spreadsheet, and you can just get down to it and just get going. You know, there's none of this opening, like this like physical opening and putting in, and then the DVD doesn't work because it's come from America and it's like doesn't work on a UK DVD player, all sorts of stuff like that. So I think actually personally, I think it's much better, and for some reason I feel like almost more focused just sitting down with that spreadsheet. And then equally, you know, we have 6 criteria that films are scored with, so you know, all the criteria is there, and it's between 1 and 5, and it goes into each box, and then you have a score right at the end of it, and it's just made things so much more easier to keep track of. Like, there's no paper. It's better for the environment, and I feel strongly about that.
I was sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've had a few from people, and they just said play it loud, and it worked usually.
I just wanted to add as well as, and I've went through this process a couple of times, consulting with independent filmmakers on kind of on the festival strategy and how to approach different festivals and their distribution. Don't worry too much about the packaging. The link is all you need. The work is the fastest way. Programmers will appreciate it. They can watch it anywhere as well, because a lot of people travel, or they don't live where you think they might be living, or they have their own life schedule and whatnot that you don't necessarily need to know about. So that makes it just comfortable for everyone. But I have seen people literally spend months delaying sending a film in to the right people because they want to build the perfect DVD package or the perfect poster for the film before it's out. So that completely delays the process. And actually, on the other side of that, what's going to happen is that, and I know this is what happens because I've been that person, you get the big DVD mail bag, you look at the pretty package, and you take the DVD out, you give it to the person or that needs to see it, and you throw away the pretty package, because it will not exist anywhere. So I've always felt really awful being being that person in the office who had to receive and administer those submissions, but going, this is really beautiful and I really appreciate it, but actually the person you want to appreciate this will not even see this because nobody has time to appreciate the package, and it will just distract you from watching the film and appreciating the work.
I was going to say, I don't know if this is correct or not, but as when you get a DVD that looks like it's going to be released in Hollywood, and it spoils it spoils a little bit of the, they want to discover, I think anyway, discover new voices and humble, talented new filmmakers rather than next Harvey Weinstein signing.
Yeah. This is a jazzy packaging here. Yeah. Like
this is already a major motion picture short film. Out in not yet out in cinemas, but
yeah.
It's all in the past. It's all in the past.
It is all in the past, actually.
Because DVDs normally anyway came out after theatrical.
Yeah.
So
I hate DVDs.
It pains me to say this because I actually do love DVDs, and I've got a massive DVD collection, but just don't send them into festivals.
No, I've gone totally digital. All things digital. Yeah.
I think there are the thing with when you have got a list of links, though, that I find is that the details that you can put into the way that you package the film that aren't about the physical packaging. So, that you've thought about your titles, and you've thought about, that first bit that someone's going to start watching is a really key thing, whether it's a programmer or an audience, because you're looking to draw someone in, and that's so separate from kind of a fancy DVD cover, and I think that then goes back to your work and the integrity of the work. So there's always a question at these things about EPKs and various other very expensive things. They're like press sort of things with stills, and exactly, which people will charge you a lot of money to put together, but I guess, and that goes to, I think, wanting to have pride in the way that you deliver this thing that you have worked really hard on. I think there is probably an element of, I don't want to put words in your mouth or any of you guys' mouths, but there's an element of anxiety about just uploading a file that you've spent a lot of time working on.
Yeah, I mean, even like, especially when you're on a feature as well, and then they're like, oh, I can just send you the link. You don't need to go to the cinema or do anything particularly difficult. You can just click on a link and then watch. But you've got to get over that, because it's just the real world, the modern world now. I mean, everyone wants a link. You're not going to sort of transport a 35mm projection to their living room. So.
Just one more practical note, because Jemma, you mentioned EPKs. Don't send them via email. Upload all your stuff to a Dropbox. Don't clog email inboxes with a dozen high-res stills of your short film, because that's just going to annoy the person who is on the other end of the email.
So say if you've got selected for the film festival that you want to be selected for, what can people expect after the film is selected? What level of support generally do your festivals offer, as your experience as a submitter? What level of support in terms of travel? What level of costs in terms of materials can you expect to, what are the things that you should be thinking about after you've got that brilliant email that says you've been accepted into this festival?
So some festivals are amazing, and some festivals are like there's nothing. So some festivals you turn up and you're like, where's the film festival? Is there anyone from Leeds here? One year I turned up at Leeds and they were like, it was in the town hall, and I was in the town hall. I was like, where's the film festival there? I'm not sure. Is there a festival on? I was like, oh, I've come to the wrong festival. Then I found Phil Olsen and he helped out, but
guided you along.
I think it's better nowadays, but there are some festivals which really stand out as being amazing, and when you hit those festivals, like South by Southwest is, because South by Southwest is more than a film festival, it's music and interactive. They're really up on their their app is amazing, and their social organisation to create collaborations is amazing. Hamburg Film Festival, they took over. It's amazing at Hamburg. You should definitely submit there. They took over this entire sort of industrial underground space, and right in the middle of this huge underground space there was a tiny little bar, and every filmmaker from all around the world had to bring a drink from their country,
which is in a sort of disused shower. It's really weird.
Yeah. And so you'd have, you know, vodka from Russia, and, you know, gin from England, and only filmmakers were allowed in there. So and, you know, so there's places, you know, different festivals provide different levels of support. So you get your first email saying you've been accepted, and then hopefully you start getting emails telling you, giving you information packs about how you can make the most out of the film festival, giving you dates to start putting in your diary. You know, it's super important that you keep organised for the film festival, because over a week you might have, you know, like 5 events every day, and there'll be a networking hour here, there'll be a party here, there'll be a masterclass, and then you've got all your screenings and you've got to promote them as well. So it's like a real whirlwind week, and it's kind of a job in a way. So you could get yourself organised, start thinking about sort of how you're going to promote your film a little bit. I mean, I think like postcards or some sort of promotional, you know, little small posters, depending on the different film festivals, I think have different rules about whether you can flyer or whether you can, how to organise that. But you want to sort of attract some sort of attention as well for your film. And I think doing some advanced research on who else is going to be at the film festival, both in terms of other film festivals, because they all go around visiting each other's film festival looking for films for their, so you'll bump into a lot of them there, and if you find out if they're there in advance, you can maybe, you know, befriend them on Facebook, send them an email, Twitter, and just start getting a dialogue between yourself and other filmmakers and industry there. So when you hit the first day, you know, you've already got you're already off to a running start, and you're integrated into the sort of society, because it's a little mini social, you know, it's a little mini sort of town.
It's its own ecosystem, really. I mean, but building on that with the festivals, we run an event called Meet the Film Festivals, where we have about 25 film festivals came last year from UK and around the world, and it's an opportunity for filmmakers like yourself to speak with a whole range of different festivals. And I think it is really important, because those people are at the festival for a week, and it's an opportunity for you to arrange a meeting, have a coffee, and, you know, you can speak to them about their festival and your film. But I think it's really important. I mean, what you're saying is like to be as organized as possible, because it is a lot that goes on. I mean, our festival, in terms of support, we will do a lot of actually editorial coverage on filmmakers. So that's on the Aesthetica magazine website and through the Aesthetica magazine social media, as well as on the ASFF. In terms of flyering, we want people to bring posters, and we hang them up in the hub, festival hub. And so we encourage filmmakers to have postcards. We'll hand them out at different events and do as many things like that as possible. We have 350 filmmakers in our festival, so unfortunately we can't cover travel. It's something I wish we could do, but I don't think the festival would be in existence if we paid for everybody to get there. So, but we do offer discounts for hotels and things like that, so that's always worthwhile asking. Festivals will often have a list of accommodation and deals that they have going with various people, so we offer those sorts of things. And then we have a whole range of special events just for filmmakers only, and free events and things that you can attend with your pass. So that's what we do.
And travel funds, there are the British Council does a travel fund, so, you know, there is help out there if you can't afford to, or if you just want support helping getting to the festival. The British Council also can if you do a blog for them for the festival, they want some editorial content sometimes, and they'll give you some support money in exchange for that, so that can help fund you to get to the festival.
I think also Creative Skill Set have some travel grants that also, if you blog for them, or if you justify that it kind of will, that travel expenses will enhance your network or your career and help you develop in some way, that's also a good place to apply for as well. And because some festivals, most of them I'd say, have some sort of industry program as well, industry or training or professional or talent development programs programs. We do a weekender called Wired Women, which is again 2 days full of panels and workshops and discussions and salons that are kind of always very different, but always aimed at especially helping women kind of progress in the film industry. So you can justify, if you live outside of London or if you live outside of the city where the festival is happening, there are different places where you can apply to go there if you can justify that will help you in some way.
This isn't completely true, I think, but actually, generally, the smaller the festival, the more hospitality they'll give you. A lot of the bigger film festivals, which I would really absolutely, if you get your film into Berlin or Rotterdam, you really should find whatever way you can to go. The BFI or sorry, the British Council have a travel fund for them, also for Oberhausen. But in Berwick we do provide travel and accommodation for filmmakers that like to come. But we are a much smaller festival. There's only about 50 filmmakers that are there, and it's very, very, the whole festival is actually built around intimacy, I would say. There's the town is really small, 10,000 people. There's a wall around it, so you're kind of trapped, actually.
This sounds like the ideal place to have a festival.
Well, yeah, that's
the thing is about festivals in big cities. They kind of get lost a bit. You know, if you're walking around London, going from venue to venue, it's you're not passing people from the festival because it's too. But if you go to somewhere like Berwick, you'll be, for that week or a few days, however long the festival is, you'll build really strong relationships with other filmmakers and anyone from the industries there because you're going to be thrown together and just like Peter said as well, they have a travel fund and accommodation, so you'll find a different experience at each different festival. You don't discount festivals that are less well known because you might get a better treatment there or a better experience. And South by doesn't provide any travel for any of the filmmakers. But I went to one in the Netherlands, for example. We got, not only did we get accommodation in a hotel and travel, we got what they called an angel, which was a dedicated Dutch person just to help us deal with just hey, do you want to go here? I'll show you around. And then we got our own driver, so they're really.
I think that's very exceptional treatment, to be honest. You have an angel and a driver. Yeah. Did you have a butler as well?
And that's I'll tell them about it.
That's pretty awesome, though. To be honest.
Yeah, it was an amazing festival. Hamburg's
which
really
was it? Go Shorts? That
was Breda. And also we won an award there. We won $2,500 for a short film, and that funded the next one. So and that was festival. It's not running anymore. Maybe it went bust.
There's also a story there.
Only ran for a few years, but
that's an interesting point about the awards. Also, like for instance, with Underwire, I mentioned we've got 12 different competitive categories, and that's because with there is a kind of an activist mission behind them, which is supporting women in underrepresented roles in the industry. But that means that the prizes for each of those categories for the winners, that already we kind of essentially link them up with highly respected organizations in the industry, and not only do they get either technical prizes like a lot of kit for their next project, or cash money, or mentoring support, or even opening doors to like having a meeting with someone at the BFI Film Fund. That's already kind of a next step. So also look at festivals that do have competitive categories where you are eligible perhaps to, if you get in, actually win cash money or win a prize or win something that will help you in your chosen kind of path in the industry, be it you can all of a sudden have a relationship with one of the with a big cinematography brand, so you can have not only just, if you win, the access to the kit, but also the relationship with the brand that can then help you with your future projects as well. That would be something to look out for as well for festivals that might not be the big Berlinale, LFF, Sundance, Class A festivals, but that will help you in a different way.
Absolutely. I think that's really, really good advice, and it's sort of like the dreaded festival strategy kind of conversation that lots of filmmakers they hate. But thinking about, you know, I guess being strategic about why you're entering festivals. Sometimes you'll enter festivals because of the prestige. Sometimes you'll enter festivals actually because there's a big prize on offer, and it might not be like the greatest experience in the world, but you know, that then helps you to pay for your submissions for the other festivals that you are entering, perhaps. Also, a word of caution about Short Film Corner at Cannes, which is basically a racket. Yeah, it is a rip-off.
So many people say, "Oh, my short film's been in Cannes."
It hasn't.
Short Film Corner.
Yeah.
So Short Film Corner is, but I think it's €80 to submit, and no film ever gets rejected from Short Film Corner. So you get this kind of thing about having been accepted into Cannes with none, and you haven't. You're just basically in the basement of the Palais. Lots of people come through, but there's no prestige at all, and they've just got your €80, and it's incredibly expensive to be in Cannes, and lots of filmmakers kind of take themselves there because they think it's really important that they should be there, and it can be a really kind of actually quite demoralizing experience. And there are some much better festivals that may not seem as prestigious, where you have a much more positive experience for much less money, and I always feel this deep responsibility to tell everyone not to submit to Short Film Corner.
It's a really wonderful article, actually. I can't remember who wrote it, explaining that whole system. And also from the other end, whenever I receive films that say, "Oh, this film screened at Cannes," I was like, "Oh, did it?" And then you see in the details, Short Film Corner, it's like, no, it did not. And also just don't use that as a badge of honor, because it really isn't. And it's just demoralizing from both ends, both for the filmmaker, I think, and for people on the other end who are just like, it wasn't at Cannes.
I want to open it out to the audience, because we've talked a lot up here. So there is a roving mic, and if you raise your hand, there's just one here.
Hi there. I'm the animation programmer for Encounters, and just wanted to add to what you're saying about just be wary about some rackets out there. Another good place to look online is the Short Film Conference, which is a European forum of representatives from a lot of European short film festivals, and they've got a code of ethics which is worth a read. And a lot of the festivals that sign up to the Short Film Conference have to abide by these code of ethics, so you know you're going to get value for money. So I was just going to ask, apart from obviously Encounters and your great festivals, are there any other sort of key festivals you could maybe suggest in the UK?
Definitely think London Short Film Festival is a really good one. Alex mentioned it before.
Yeah, I mean, Phil's the original short film guy in London. I mean, he started his like 15 years ago or something, and a lot of the recent festivals they sprung up maybe it's an industry now, but he was doing it when, you know. So London Short Film Festival is a really great eclectic place to start, and Edinburgh,
Glasgow.
Glasgow's pretty good.
We're like
not Leeds. Birmingham's got one called
Flatpack.
Which sounded
Encounters is very, very good, and it's a lot of fun.
There's more. We're missing some.
Oh, sorry.
For animation, there's also the new, relatively new, I think it's the second year, for the Manchester Animation Festival.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's a really good one too.
Yeah.
And the one in London for animation specifically, it's Liaf. Yeah.
But I actually living in Berwick, I know how expensive trains are, and sometimes it can be, cheaper actually to go to. Not so good for the environment, but to go to some of the European festivals that you mentioned. Oberhausen especially has a amazingly broad and interesting program. It's mostly in one cinema, so you have really close contact with people, and they will really help you. I attended their first time, just having finished university, and asked them if they could help me, and they hooked me up with someone in town to stay with. So it's really good. And Hamburg as well that's been mentioned, but there's a lot of really great.
Clermont-Ferrand is a great short film festival that I always go to. So yeah.
I'd also say for documentary, Sheffield Doc Fest and Open City Documentary Festival, which takes place in London.
I just saw EasyJet adverts to Marseille, and Fid Marseille is a really brilliant festival for documentary and artist film. There's many more.
Any more questions from the audience? Yeah, just here. And do you want to go back there, seeing as you're there, and then come over here?
Hi, I thought this was really useful. Thank you so much. I have an 8-minute film that I'd like to submit, but it's the first time I've ever done anything like this. So I just wondered, first of all, if you ever suggest edit points or edit changes, and if so, what for? Is it like quality? And also, what's the protocol in terms of having your film on Vimeo and out there in public domain, as well as being submitted to, as many festivals as you want? Is it kind of carte blanche, or?
Each festival has a different take on Vimeo and whether things are public. So there'll be some festivals that don't want that information, want that film in the public domain yet. So I think it's worthwhile having a look at kind of the FAQs on whatever festival website it is that you're looking at. In terms of the edit, I mean, I guess that just depends on you, really. I mean, I think go through the film maybe frame by frame and make sure you're really pleased and happy with. And that's, what we were speaking about earlier about evaluation and feedback and things. Maybe test it out on a few people. I mean, your family can be quite tricky because they love you. So whatever you do, but maybe test it out on a group of, really close friends who you can get, really good feedback from, and then take that information to the editing room. But I think in terms of the protocol, I guess if you go to the festivals that you're interested in submitting to, and Encounters has been named as Aesthetica, Underwire, Berwick, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Flatpack in Birmingham, so there's quite a few. London Short Film Festival, obviously. So I mean, every festival will have a different set of criteria and a different form. So our festival, for example, I mean, we have a very detailed registration form that asks you all sorts of information, so you can synopsis and all, just technical information, etc. So I think the best thing to do is maybe start off by compiling a list of festivals that really appeal to you, and do the like we said in the discussion, that appeal to you, and do the research on them, and then start to have a look. I mean, there are fees, so it's worthwhile thinking about what sort of budget you might have. If you've got 50 quid or something, then think about what are the festivals, maybe 2 or 3 festivals that are really important to you, and then filter it down from there. So hopefully that's helpful.
So, okay, this is kind of 2 questions rather than 1. But so in terms of like timings of a film, if it's like 0 to 10 minutes, it has to be, and you submit a 2-minute film, is that going to work against you if you're not submitting as much as somebody else who's done like a 9-minute film?
No.
Okay.
If anything, it will work for you.
Okay.
Love a short film. No, definitely no. There's also, I'm quite flexible, even though, for instance, Underwire, we have we only accept films up to 20 minutes long, because it really does become quite difficult to program short films that are longer than 20-25 minutes. I'm very flexible with those other 5 minutes. I know other programmers are not, but if the film is worth it, you just make it work. But there is an absence of quite short films, but they can work just as well. And in fact, if you manage to pack in a strong punch in a 2 or 5 minute short film, that's almost more impactful sometimes than they have the same value. They definitely don't take away from you, but they are on a practical almost level a lot easier to program, and because they really take up less time in a program, and you want to show as many short films as possible. And if you can show 10 films that are 2 to 5 minutes long, that kind of makes you a lot happier than being able to show just 4 that are 20 minutes long in the same time frame. So it definitely doesn't work against you.
And I guess the other thing is, in terms of sort of submitting links, is it normal to submit past work as a way of saying, okay, this is what other stuff I've done, or is that not something you'd like to really see? You want to just look at the one piece that you're submitting?
We just want to look at the one piece.
Just the one piece.
We just don't have the time to go through your previous works. But I mean, just on a personal note, if someone's piques my interest, I'll definitely be checking out their website and looking at other work, just because I want to know what's the sort of overview of this person's practice. So rest assured, people will be checking you out if they like it.
Thank you.
Hi, to the programmers specifically, could you guys give a little bit of a backstory as to how you got where you are today, and also the credentials that you kind of got along the way, and how that kind of works for you in your job now?
Well, yeah, I actually just in a way I kind of ended up in Rotterdam, actually not really knowing that there was a really massive film festival there, but I just it just really excited me, and I wanted to be involved with it, because I realized there were just this range of cinema that I hadn't had access to before. So I started volunteering, and I did that for a few years, and then actually one kind of afternoon, and I was also organizing kind of small gigs and screenings myself, with friends to begin with, and then it just sort of snowballed, I guess. And I did do a master's in preservation and presentation of the moving image in Amsterdam, but I didn't finish it. So I always say that I got work then, and which I did, but I didn't write all the essays. So yeah, that was so it was just actually in a way quite dilettante, and just really excited about what I was doing.
I started working actually in Spain in production, and I worked at a big production company for a very well-known director, and kind of worked on international relations and marketing for across several feature films that we did in the 2 years that I was with them. And then I moved to London, and my first job was at the BFI, working for the director of the London Film Festival. So that was my first inside contact of a major film festival, and that piqued my interest. And all of a sudden, this job that I had not ever seen done by any woman ever in my country, all of a sudden I started meeting all of these people, and I was very intrigued by the process, because it is a very practical but also highly creative type of work, and it touched on a lot of things that I was interested in individually, and all of a sudden they made sense and clicked perfectly in this one job. So that became something that I was very interested in, and I worked in film marketing in different places, and started doing events, putting on events for a company that I used to run called Shooting People, which is where I met Cherie, because I did an event at Aesthetica with her a couple of years ago, and that all just started falling into place quite naturally. And I got involved with Underwire in a very kind of casual way. So I programmed the festival one year, and then that December, the then organizers took me to dinner, bought me a curry, and gave me the festival, and that is the literal truth. But it all kind of, that's actually true, and I love telling that story. It all kind of made sense because it has a lot to do with my background in marketing films as well, and in connecting different films and different events to audiences and package them in a way that makes sense creatively and also makes sense for people who want to attend and to want to see that work, that are not always industry people, but rather people who just want to see new interesting work, either on a specific theme or because they're interested in on women's work, or because they're interested in particular themes that I'm also interested in exploring that year, and also because I am just a control freak and I really like organizing things. So it all kind of fell into place, and I came through all the different avenues of the film industry and ended up in exhibition, because that's the bit where I thought that every single element of it combined the best, and it still puts me in touch with filmmakers and new people working in film and doing really exciting creative out there work, and still puts me in touch with going to the film festivals and experiencing them and learning from them and seeing how they do things, and kind of spying on how they organize their hospitality and how do they do these events, and how can we make everything that I do personally, my jobs, better. Both for on the practical organizational side, but also for the filmmakers and for the audience as well. So it's just a giant jigsaw puzzle that I really enjoy putting together.
Well, my story is a slightly different route. So I started in publishing, actually. So the magazine Aesthetica, I actually founded that publication a long time ago now, 14 years ago. So I was a student. So I'm from New York originally, and I came to the UK to do my master's. And whilst I was here, so in York, actually, so not in London. And I started the publication. I basically wanted to do an internship for a magazine, covering art, film, culture, but there wasn't one in that city or anywhere nearby. So after 6 months, it was a bit maverick, but I got a credit card and I started this business. And that is kind of the God's honest truth, how I got started, why I'm here today having this discussion. So from a journalistic perspective, we'd always covered film and cinema, that I would talk about cinema kind of the heart and of the mind, things that really make you think. And, you know, so strong narratives, great aesthetics. So it's always been something that's been in the publication. And it was 8 years ago. So we were continuously contacted by short filmmakers asking if we could do editorial in the magazine about their films. And the magazine is distributed widely throughout the UK. It's like 590 stores, and it's exported to 20 countries. So you have to think about your audience. And so it wasn't something that we could do editorially. So we thought actually one year we'd produce a DVD of short films, and that would go out with our Christmas edition. So this is 8 years ago. And and we do editorial, and there was a prize package of screenings at 5 different festivals, and prize money and training and a whole great thing. So if you made it onto the DVD, then that was super for you, and it was this whole package. But what ended up happening was that there were far too many great films that came in. So that year there was just under 1,000 films that came in. And this is the first year that we had ever done anything like this. A DVD, as you know, I've already told you I don't like them, but a DVD is 2 hours long. So that presented a challenge, because it meant we only had 2 hours worth of film that we could put together, curate. So there were only 13 films that actually made it onto the DVD, which was really, personally, it was really a struggle for me, because there was, you know, I've founded this company on the basis of supporting and championing excellence across art and culture, including film. So it was a real challenge for me to have to turn away excellent work when really there was nothing wrong with it. It was just subjective. We ran out of time. There was only 2 hours worth of time on this disc. So the Christmas edition was published, the DVD came out, happy days, except for I still didn't sit right with me, and I just couldn't couldn't put my finger on it, but I wasn't really pleased with kind of the way it was, you know, the demand was far greater than what we could offer with a DVD. So a couple of months later, I was invited to BAFTA to give a talk to filmmakers about how they could work with brands like Aesthetica magazine. And at the end of the talk, there was probably a good 30 filmmakers who'd sent their work in that didn't make it on the DVD, and they all asked for feedback. Nobody was irate. Hallelujah. People were just genuinely wanting feedback. And I said, some of the films I couldn't remember, so I said, email the office and we'll send you the notes. But some of the films I could remember, and I said, like, I'm going to be totally honest with you. You know, we were producing a DVD of shorts, so we just had to make some choices. I remember your film; it was excellent. In fact, it was brilliant, and there was nothing wrong with it. And you know, I'm sorry it didn't make it onto the DVD. I thought after that experience, I thought this isn't going to work, and that is how the festival got started. Because I thought I've got two choices here: stop doing work in film, although there seems to be quite a demand for filmmakers to have an outlet to exhibit their work, or transform it into a festival, and which is effectively what I did. I drafted the idea out on a little piece of paper, and then there you went. The first film festival was 7 years ago, and that's that. So that's how I got into it.
And just to quickly add to that before we move on to more questions, is that like Anna, I started working in film festivals and got into programming that way, but I also worked in cinema programming for a while at an organisation called the Independent Cinema Office, and they run this course called Cultural Cinema Exhibition, which is really a valuable, you know, I think experience within festivals and doing your own stuff is absolutely invaluable. But CCE, this Cultural Cinema Exhibition course, is kind of a really good thing to apply to once you've done a bit of your own stuff, to really cement that experience and to get to the top of the pile of applications if you're applying for that really rarest of things, which is a programming role that might come up, because there are so many people wanting to program, and just getting that kind of very practical, contained training is really unique. So that's worth checking out as well. I think you had a question. Could we get what mic over here?
I think this might have to be the last one.
Okay.
I just have a quick question. How important are the cover letters? Do you care about them, or it's not worth adding them to the submission?
I'd say definitely there's nothing wrong with adding them to the submission, especially like we work exclusively with Film Freeway as our platform that is just integrated into the submission, and it's there and it can add some, I read them, just kind of add some valuable information. The thing though is, are you tailoring it to each festival, or are you just creating a blank cover letter that you can just add? Because you can pretty much see right through a blank cover letter that isn't really addressed to anyone in particular.
I'm afraid we have to stop there, but we'll be around, so I think if there are any other questions, just grab us outside. But thank you very much for your time, Cherie, Alex, Anna and Peter, and thank you very much for all your contributions too.